Okay. Good evening to all of you. Let me welcome you to this CMA Sri Lanka COVID-19 SME Development Committee. We are having a meeting and also a seminar today. So let me welcome all of you. So let me welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Takuya Hoshino from the Asian Development Bank. Then we have our senior members of our committee, Dr. Kulatunga Rajapaksa. Then we also have our other members who are present here. And let me also welcome all our participants. Then we also have our participating banks. I can see Mr. Rakogama from the HNB, but I think the others will join shortly. So today, really, we normally have our meeting, the SME Development Committee, on Mondays at 6:30, and we have been conducting these meetings from April 2020, and which were later followed by conferences that we had, and both online and also the first meeting in Hambantota, where the Honorable Prime Minister was present. So today we are discussing on the SME sector, and you all know that it is a very important area for the economy of this country. And as I remember, the Honorable Prime Minister at the meeting in Hambantota, he said that the SME sector is the backbone of the economy of this country. So which means that a lot of support has to be given to this sector. And at that conference, we had 11 of our participating banks present. We have invited all of them for this meeting today, and I'm sure that all of them will be there. So you know that what they say is that the SME sector, almost 52% of the enterprises are in the SME sector, and about 45%, 52% of the GDP, and of course 45% of the total employment, while making up 75% of the total number of enterprises in the country. So this is a very, very important sector, and today we are very happy that we have been able to invite Mr. Takuya Hoshino from the Asian Development Bank, because Asian Development Bank is a bank that has been helping the SME sector, I think, for a long time back. And this has enabled the SME sector to develop a great deal. And even currently, they are having very, very specialized loan schemes, which they are giving through the participating banks in order that they could conduct, where they could give the loans to their customers and ensure that the SME sector is successful. Now, today we are discussing on the new loan schemes that have been launched by the Asian Development Bank, which is the SME credit line which they are granting, and of course the V5 grant, which is specially meant for the women. And we just celebrated Women's Day, International Women's Day, on the 8th of March, and I'm sure that Mr. Takuya will have a lot of things to say about that. In addition to that, of course, we know that recently we took the initiative from our SME Credit Guarantee, our committee, where we met the Minister of Industries, and we were able to recommend to the government through the Minister of Industries to set up the SME Credit Guarantee Institution. And I know that definitely the Asian Development Bank is going to fund this, but I know that they are not in a position to speak too much on it. But they have done this in very many other countries. So the success of this could be seen, and I'm sure that Mr. Takuya will talk on the importance of SME credit guarantee institutions and what they have done in other foreign countries, which have benefited the SME sector. So Mr. Takuya Hoshino is the financial sector specialist, public management, financial sector, and trade division. South Asia Regional Department of the Asian Development Bank. So I must thank Mr. Takuya Hoshino. I think he is very well known to all our bankers, the various chambers of commerce who are also present here, and that they will also be able to, during the Q&A session, to make any comments. I've also invited the participating banks to give the experiences that they have had under this loan scheme. So let me, with those introductory remarks, invite Mr. Takuya Hoshino to address us. And thereafter, if you have any questions, you can kindly send it on Q&A so that we could answer any questions that are there. We will also, after his address, we have our expert comments from our own members and also from the participating banks. Over to you, Mr. Takuya Hoshino.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Lakshman, Professor Lakshman, inviting me to this very honorable event today. So I'm very happy to be a part of the government and also the country's endeavor to develop the MSME sector. And today I'd like to share a brief presentation on what ADB has done so far, and I also would like to discuss briefly about our future plan. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Okay. So then let me start the presentation. So today, first I'd like to explain about the ADB's sector assessment on the MSME sector, and also explain about the ADB's comprehensive approach to the MSME development. And the second, we briefly explain about the progress of the SME line of credit project that has actually started back in 2016. But it has been continuously expanded. And thirdly, I'd like to discuss about our ongoing effort for the capacity building through the technical assistance supports. And then finally, I'd like to discuss about ADB's future programs, such as SME Credit Guarantee Institution Project. So let me first start from the high level ADB's assessment of the sector and also the ADB's overall strategic approach. So this table shows the overall spectrum of the Sri Lankan enterprise sector. And as you can see, that the enterprises are concentrated on the micro and also informal segment. And especially, I would like to highlight that there is some gender disparity across the different types of the enterprises. And when it comes to the informal sector, 27% of the companies are owned by women. On the other hand, if you can see the micro, small, medium, and large, the women-led or women-owned enterprises are less than 10%. So it means that if you want to improve the situation of the women entrepreneurs, then you should focus on the transition from the informal sector to micro sector. So that is the key implication for the women entrepreneurship development in Sri Lanka, and also not only for women-owned enterprises, but also men-owned enterprises are also concentrated on the informal sector. So the transition from the informal to micro to small, those transformation is not only for the issue for women entrepreneurs, but also overall MSME ecosystem. This table shows the international comparison, especially in terms of the level of the development of the financial sector. If you see, for example, the GDP per capita, the Sri Lanka is, I think, the highest in the South Asian countries. And if the Sri Lanka wants to upgrade itself to, say, the middle income countries like Thailand or Malaysia, then definitely the financial sector must be developed. For example, as of now, Sri Lankan private credit to GDP ratio is only 50%. That is significantly lower than those of Thailand or Malaysia. And also, if you see the stock market to GDP ratio, again, Sri Lanka is significantly low, and significantly lower than India, Thailand, and Malaysia. So it means that banking sector should be more expanded, and also the capital market should be more expanded. This is, I think, clear from this international comparison. So underdeveloped financial markets is actually leading to the limited access to finance by enterprises. And this is again the international comparison among the Asian countries. And in the case of Sri Lanka, 35% of the number of firms regards the credit is fully constrained. And this number is significantly higher than India or Malaysia. And again, if you can see that this is the estimates by the International Finance Corporation, but the financing gap is quite huge in Sri Lanka, both for the formal segment as well as the informal segment. And so definitely we need to fix it through the policy interventions. So here is the comprehensive or structural approach to limited access to finance by micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We should see demand side, supply side, and also facilitation side. In terms of the demand side, we definitely need to increase the bankable projects by MSMEs. In terms of the supply side, banks' lending capacity and willingness to outreach to MSMEs should be further enhanced. And also, the facilitation of the matching between the demand side and supply side is also important. And there is clearly an information asymmetry between the banks and the MSMEs, and also the huge transaction cost for the bank lending. So marketing infrastructure should be strengthened. Accounting and auditing, this is, I think, the core mandate of the CMA. This is also very important. And also the use of technology like ICT, and also the competition in banking sector should be further strengthened, and also some risk mitigation tools should be implemented, such as like a credit guarantee or insurance products. So we are not only focusing on the supply side. People always accuse us like ADB is just providing a fund, but we are not only taking care of the supply side, but also trying to increase the bankable MSME projects through the technical assistance. And also, I'd like to say that the ADB focuses on the facilitation because in the end, in order to create a sustainable mechanism for MSME finance ecosystem, definitely this facilitation is the key. We provide the credit line through the banks, but our intention is not just providing a cheap funding to the banks. Rather, we'd like to create more healthy competition among the participating financial institutions, and also strengthen the accounting and the auditing standard of the MSMEs through the banks, and also market infrastructure should be further strengthened through perhaps the upgradation of the risk management system of the banks, and also the or enterprise development support by the banks. This is the strategic approach by ADB to MSME sector development in Sri Lanka. So here is actually the key priorities. I would like to reiterate those 5 points because those are very important. The first priority is to incentivize banks for experiments. We understand that financing to women entrepreneurs or underserved MSME segments are quite challenging for banks. And so we would like to create some incentive mechanisms for banks to experiment in reaching out to those underserved segments. The second, we would like to support the formalization of MSMEs. Formalization means that those enterprises benefited from our support will establish a good accounting and auditing practices and a good enterprises management, and also upgradation of the operational frameworks. That will definitely support those formalized enterprises to be integrated into more profitable value chains. Third, we would like to focus on the capacity development support to be strengthened. We understand that there are so many institutions and training programs, but perhaps those trainings or capacity development supports can become more effective, efficient, and targeted. Fourth, we'd like to enhance the sector level competitiveness, because of course we can support the individual MSMEs, but the profitability of the overall sector, that is also important. Fifth, we also would like to strengthen the market infrastructure. As I highlighted in the last slide, the facilitation measure is coming from strengthened market infrastructure. So we also would like to focus on those in the market infrastructure side as well. So let me quickly overview the progress of our SME line of credit project. So our SME line of credit project started from 2016. We started from the 100 million credit line through 10 banks in 2016. That 100 million was quickly dispersed, and so the first additional financing of 75 million was introduced in the mid-2018. This was also completed. And at the same time, we also introduced the second additional financing of 9.5 million grant. This is from Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, WIFI grant. And this is still ongoing. And in the meantime, upon the COVID-19 hitting Sri Lanka early 2020, we also started to process the third additional financing. That was approved in the end of 2020. So this 165 million third additional financing, this additional financing has three components. One is the 100 million COVID-19 emergency response component. This is intended to provide the working capital to SMEs. The second component is the SME component. This is actually the continuation of the previous two credit plans from 2016, but we made some refinement. And thirdly, we also introduced specialized credit schemes to T smallholders. To reiterate, under the third additional financing, we have three components. And today, I'd like to focus on this second component, 45 million SME component, because this is more relevant for Sri Lanka to improve the access to finance by MSMEs, especially in the recovery phase from the COVID-19. Just giving some background information, this 100 million emergency response component, this is still ongoing facility, but we understand that most of the funds have been already utilized because this emergency response component is intended to provide a quick disbursement or quick liquidity support to SMEs who were affected by the COVID-19. So this facility is effectively already completed. But this second component, 45 million SME component, this is still ongoing together with the WIFI grant. And there is a possibility that this 45 million SME component will be expanded in the future because this 100 million emergency response component is a short-term loan. So the government can expect the repayment from the banks on this emergency response component within 2 to 3 years. And so this repaid fund to the government can be recycled. And this recycled fund can be topped up on this 45 million SME component. So this SME component is 45 million as of now, but you can expect that some portion of 100 million may be added to this SME component in the future. So this is the implementation arrangements of this SME component. So ADB will lend to the Ministry of Finance, and then Ministry of Finance will lend this in the Sri Lankan rupee terms to 13 participating banks. And then these 13 participating banks will on lend this Sri Lankan loan, Sri Lankan rupee denominated loan proceeds to capital investments by targeted SMEs. And this targeted SME is excluding the trade or financing activities. And then these 13 participating banks are required to meet development targets as well. Development targets are the number of women-led SMEs or number of startups. So all the participating banks not only meet the disbursement targets, but also meet the development targets. And if the banks achieves those two targets, then the banks can continue to be eligible for this fund. And then in the case where the beneficiary SMEs are women-owned, in this case, the WIFI grant can also kick in. So WIFI grant can cover 10 to 25% of the loan principal. So which means that if the women-owned SMEs borrow 100, then women-owned SMEs can only repay 90, and the rest of the 10 will be funded from this WIFI grant. So this SME component is based on the successful implementation of the previous two loans. I'd like to highlight that the previous loan actually utilized for say 47.7% to women at SMEs or 26.9% to first-time borrowers. So development impact of the previous Great Line was quite huge. So let me skip this slide. So WIFI grant, that is to support the women entrepreneurs. But this WIFI grant is basically expected to support the transition of micro enterprises to small or medium size. Because we think that very nascent stage, women entrepreneurs needs the pure grant funding rather than the bank funding. And so blended finance solution that blending both the bank loans and grant is suitable for women entrepreneurs who has already established the business models and also networks. And those blended financing is more suitable for expanding those established business models to a larger scale. So this WeFi grant was introduced in 2018, and this still continues on until 2022 by the end of this year. So this WeFi grant so far is again being successfully implemented, and during 2018 to 2020, 663 women-owned SMEs were benefited from this facility. And as you can see, that significant portion or significant percentage of the women SMEs beneficiaries are first-time borrowers or from lagging regions. So based on the success between 2018 to 2020, now ADB and the government is focusing on the transition to market-based financing. Originally, WeFi grant actually covered 20 to 35% of the loan principal. This is quite generous to the bank. But in order to build a more sustainable or like a financing system, definitely these grant portions should be rationalized. And so we first decided to reduce the grant portion from 20% to 10%. And also, the beneficiaries of this WeFi grant should be more focused on the smaller sized businesses. And so maximum loan size was also lowered from Sri Lankan rupees 50 million to Sri Lankan rupee 30 million. So currently, this WeFi grant is implemented with more targeted objectives. And also, we would like to expand our outreach of this WeFi project. And so we added 3 new banks to participate in financial institutions, namely Pan Asia Bank, Union Bank of Congo, and the Sadansa Development Bank. So they are ready to utilize this WeFi grant to support their women customers. And also, we would like to emphasize the importance of the technical assistance, because the capacity building or capacity enhancement of the financial sector itself will definitely contribute to the sustainable development of the financial ecosystem. So in terms of the technical assistance, we actually support banks, government institutions such as NEDA, ADB, ITI, and also chambers of commerce. And also we are building some online training programs and also online platforms. At the same time, we also provide some policy advices to the government on certain regulations and also financial supports. So I'd like to share with you our idea on new online platform to support women entrepreneurs. This is the brand new initiative, and we plan to launch it within this year. Now, NEDA is working as a primary agency for this agenda. So when it comes to the support for women entrepreneurs, in many countries, the government or the private sector jointly, launched several portals. Those portals are not only disseminate the knowledge or information, but also provide actual online support services for the business development by women entrepreneurs. You can see such kind of, or example in, for example, like Singapore, Korea, Japan, Europe, those countries. So we would like to launch a similar ICT platform for women. The reason is very simple, because the capacity of the government institutions are limited. And you cannot expect government institution will be further expanded under the current fiscal situation. So effective use of the online tools to provide support to women entrepreneurs or SMEs is quite timely and also relevant. So of course, this kind of online platform should be developed by meeting the demands and the needs of the women entrepreneurs, MSMEs, and also banking sector. But we would like to start from a very simple service lines. So our original plan is that this online platform will support the learning by the women entrepreneurs through online training courses and mentoring by the experts, and also support networking among the women entrepreneurs. Especially networking support will be beneficial for the women entrepreneurs to expand its market access. So this is the image of the online platform. I just want to share the image, and I hope that you can feel what kind of services will be provided through this online platform. So we will definitely announce once this online platform is being launched, and also we would like to seek support from CMA, especially in terms of the learning and also the mentoring, because we understand that the cost accounting is very crucial for supporting the development of the capacity of women entrepreneurs, and also the transition from the informal to formal segments. And we would like to seek your support to join our initiative. Finally, I'd like to share the priority agenda that ADB is currently working for, or together with the government. The first one is SME credit guarantee institution. We understand that still many MSMEs are suffered from lack or limited access to finance, partly due to the bank's heavy reliance on the fixed assets as a collateral. And when you see other countries, most of the Asian countries have its own government-sponsored credit guarantee institution. And so we also would like to support the government to introduce a new national credit guarantee institution. And there are actually several business models in Asia. For example, in Japan or Korea, the government fully owns the credit guarantee institution. And regularly, the government provide some funds, additional funds to credit guarantee funds or facilities. And that is the one model. Another model is in, for example, Malaysia. In the case of Malaysia, the credit guarantee institution is owned jointly by the central bank and also participating financial institutions. And under joint ownership, credit guarantee institution is being operated on a commercially sustainable manner. And we see that this financially sustainable model in Malaysia, this is more relevant to Sri Lanka. Because again, you cannot expect regular funding from the government under the fiscal situation. And also, we believe that participation of the banks into this credit guarantee institution will upgrade the operations of credit guarantee institution to meet the needs of the MSMEs, at the same time, the needs of the participating financial institutions. Another possible agenda is to support establishing SME venture capital fund. ADB has actually carried out some background research back in 2018, and we proposed some idea. So equity finance is also important agenda for Sri Lanka. So we also may support the government to develop SME venture capital financing ecosystem through financing support and or technical assistance support. So let me stop my presentation here. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm very welcome to any questions from the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Takuya Hoshino. I think you really touched on the very important matters. One thing is the role of the ADB, because I know that it's not only from 2016, but even from very much earlier, maybe for the last 3 to 4 decades, you all have been really supporting the SME sector. And especially the area you mentioned on the women, I think that would be really a very important and a great area. And I think you were also there when we had the International Women's Day, and where we launched a program. We'll be launching a program for costing and pricing for women. And as you mentioned, that is a very important area. So I'm sure that it will greatly benefit. Plus also the website that you created and the online platform that you are creating. We have done a lot of our webinars now for capacity building, especially on the financial area, and also told them of the importance of restructuring and also on the marketing. And then the latest, the last 2 that you mentioned on the credit guarantee institution, I must thank you for pointing that out, and also for the support. I know that already you all had pledged $100 million, which the government is going to invest in the fund, and that's already in stages. Plus also the important area where you mentioned of the public-private participation, number of the identified participating banks, I think, have expressed interest. So certainly that would be very good, and I'm sure that what you mentioned about the Malaysian model could be taken up. The other area of the venture capital, now this is of great importance. A lot of the people, especially those who have been, who are starting new projects, the venture capital will certainly help them a great deal. So this is another area where we hope that we will be able to get it started fast, and I'm sure a lot of our commercial banks would also participate, because that's something that they would like what they have supported the credit guarantee institution, the venture capital fund, and where the government also will be able to completely do it. So I think most of the matters that you mentioned are really great efforts that you are taking for SME sector, and I'm sure the support that you have given will strengthen. And from our side, from our SME COVID-19 SME Development Committee, we have the support of the commercial banks. We also have the chambers of commerce, and we also have experts from the industry sector who are with us. So they will be able to certainly help in the projects that you are undertaking, capacity building, then training, marketing, all these areas. So we will certainly be very willing to join with you and help you in all our matters. So before I get our members to comment, we have some of our bankers who are present here. Mr. Rakogama is present here from the Hatton National Bank. Mr. Rakogama, you like to mention some of the projects that you are doing on this ADB funded projects and the sort of successes that you have had. Can I hand over to you, Mr. Bandar Rakogama?
Yeah, good evening, Professor.
Yeah. I think Mr. Hoshino, can you remove the slide
Yeah.
so that...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think very good presentation by the guest speaker, Mr. Takuya. And thank you for the opportunity given to me to address. And basically, we are actually inception of this SME lock scheme in 2016. We are there, and whatever the allocation given to the bank, all the 100% utilized by the particular period. And now other one is going on for SMEs sector and T sector. And earlier the working capital loan given to the banks, even our bank also 100% utilized, and reimbursement are going on.
We can't hear you, Mr. Rakoga. You are muted. Please unmute and speak. Mr. Rakoga, you are muted. Please unmute. You're muted, Mr. Rakogama. Right, okay. I think he's having some problem with this.
Ongoing projects we are looking for.
Right, okay, fine.
And even for women entrepreneurs, basically the ownership of the entity, more than 51% should be there. That means if it's a limited liability or a partnership, the ownership should be more than 51% by the women entrepreneur. And also another one is we are not giving any financing for trading, renting, only for service sectors, manufacturing and related industries. We are not for trading and renting. This is the clear-cut feature. And as Takuya's presentation mentioned, the segments like SMEs, micros segments, the employment categories are the small size and medium size and small size. So accordingly, the turnover levels are very much the valid point when we are evaluating. So even employees, altogether SMEs we identify to fund for this particular scheme. And I observed that many of entities, they are not registered, but they are doing good in SMEs and even micro level. So we are encouraging them to register their businesses. So this is a requirement for the project. The register should be project should be there. Also, they have to have the environment protection license. So that as supportive documents. So most of entities they are running, even registered company entities, they are not obtained the environment protection license. So that is why some of the project rejected for free financing. And also I was request from the all chambers to encourage all members and their SMEs and even lower-end SMEs to register their business plus any other regulatory requirement to support for this scheme. And as Takuya mentioned, according to the project feature, another one is startups. Basically, we want to give, even if we lend 100 loans, so out of 120 loans should be startups. So that's another feature. Therefore, opportunities are there for startup businesses for this particular category. And that grant also having three categories. If the women entrepreneur having ownership more than 51%, immediately 10% grant is there. If the entity operate within the lagging district, another 5% is entitled. And also the entrepreneur, women entrepreneur followed the training program provided by the ADB, another 10% is entitled. That means altogether 20% grant is there to support their business. So this very much attractive the grant and also the facility. So therefore, many of women entrepreneurs are there in the SMEs and low end like micro level. So we want to encourage them to come on board to get enjoy this facility to expand their business activities. So the features are there. I think all the banks are doing this one. So better to open to the participants. Any queries comes so we can answer. So over to Professor.
Thank you very much. I think there was a question that came up to explain what Mr. Takuya mentioned in Sinhala. I will just say a few words and maybe I can be joined by Dr. Ravi Bamunusunge and Dr. Kulatunga Rajapaksa so that I can keep it brief. ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන්ම අද අපි මේ ආරාධනා කෙරුවේ අපේ මේ සුළුහා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ මේ CMA ශ්‍රී ලංකා ආයතනයේ COVID-19 වසංගතයට සඳහා අපි මේ පටන් ගත්ත ආයතනයේ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් විදිහට තමයි මිස්ටර් ටකියෝ හොෂිනෝ ඇවිල්ලා අද මේ ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවේ ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් ස්පෙෂලිස්ට් ඇවිල්ලා කතා කරුවේ. මොකද එතුමා කිව්වේ දැන් 2016 ඉඳලා විශාල වශයෙන් මේ සංවර්ධන ණය බැංකු මාර්ගයෙන් ඒ අය සුළු හා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ ආයතන වලට දීලා තියෙනවා කියලා. ඉතින් අද මේ අපේ බණ්ඩාර රැකගොම් මහත්තයා ඒ ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් බැංකුවෙන් කොමන විදිහට ඒ ණය දුන්නාද කියලා තමයි කතා කරුවේ. ඉතින් මේ ණය ගැන කතා කරනකොට විශේෂයෙන්ම සඳහන් කරන්න ඕනේ මේ කාන්තාවන් සඳහා ප්‍රධාන ණය ක්‍රම ඇති කරලා තියෙනවා. මොකද කියන්නේ දැන් කාන්තාවන් අර මයික්‍රෝ පැත්තෙන් හුඟක් වැඩි වුණාට සුළු හා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ ආයතනයේ මේ කාන්තාවන් අඩුයි කියලා. එම නිසා ඒ අය මේ අලුත් ණය ක්‍රමය හඳුන්වා දීලා තියෙනවා විශේෂයෙන්ම කාන්තාවන්ට ණය ගැනීමට. ඉතින් ඒක මම හිතනවා ඒ බැංකු වලින් අපේ බැංකු මම හිතන්නේ 10ක් 11ක් තියෙනවා. ඒ අයට සම්බන්ධ වෙලා ඒ ණය ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. ඒ වගේම මේ එතුමාගේ කතාවේදී කිව්වා මේ විශේෂ වශයෙන්ම අද ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවෙන් මේ අපිට මේ උදව් කරනවා කියලා මේ අර සුළු හා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ මේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් ගැරන්ටි කියන්නේ ණය මේ දෙන්න පුළුවන් ගැරන්ටි එකක් දෙන ආයතනයක් පිහිටවන්න කියලා. අන්න ඒකට දැන් රජයේ අනුමැතිය ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවේ ඊට සහාය දෙනවා. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. දැන් මොකද ඒක මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් දැනට කරගෙන යන්නේ. ඒක ජූනි ජුලයි මාසේ වෙනකොට ඒක අපිට දියත් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. හැබැයි ඒකට සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා අපේ මේ අපේ ලංකාවේ බැංකුව. ඒ කියන්නේ පාටිසිපේටින් බැංක්ස් කියන්නේ ඒ අය තමයි ඒකට සහභාගී වෙලා ඒක රාජ්‍ය සහ පෞද්ගලික අංශයේ සම්බන්ධය පබ්ලික් ප්‍රයිවට් පාර්ට්නර්ෂිප් කියන අන්න ඒ වැඩ පිළිවෙලට තමයි යන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි හිතනවා මේකෙන් හුඟක් දුරට මේ කුඩා සහ සුළු හා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ ආයතන වලට විශාල ප්‍රයෝජනයක් වෙයි කියලා. ඊට අමතරව එතුමා කිව්වා මේ අර වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් ඒ කියන්නේ මේ ආයතනයක් පිහිටවන්න කියලා දැන් ප්‍රාග්ධනය උවමනා වෙන මේ ආයතන වලට ඒ ප්‍රාග්ධනය මේ ආයතන වලින් ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඉතින් ඒකටත් ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුව ආධාර දෙනවා කිව්වා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒකට දැන් අපිට රජයේ අනුමැතියක් ගන්න වෙයි. අපි ඒකට අපේ පැත්තෙන් අපි පුළුවන් තරම් සහයෝගය දීලා ඒක අපි දියත් කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඊට අමතරව දැන් සුළු හා මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ ආයතනවල අරකට මම කියන්නේ කුඩා සහ මධ්‍යම පරිමාණ ව්‍යවසාය ණය අපකර ආයතනයේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් ගැරන්ටි ණය අපකර මොකක් හුඟක් දෙනාට අද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ණයක් ගන්න ගියාම මේ අපකරයක් දෙන්න අමාරුවක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ අපකර ආයතනය තුලින් ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඉතින් ඒකට අපිට හොඳ ව්‍යාපෘති තියෙන්න ඕන. ඒ වගේම ඒක අපේ මේ බැංකු මාර්ගයෙන් තමයි ඒකට මේ ඌමනා කරන ව්‍යාපෘති සකස් කරලා ඒ අයට ඒ ණය අප කර ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මම හිතනවා මේක ඉතා වැදගත් දෙයක් කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ අපි හුඟක් කාලයක් මේ ගැන සාකච්ඡා කෙරුවා. අද අපිට රජයට මේ අයගේ අනුමැතිය ලබා ගන්න හම්බ වුණා. කර්මාන්ත අමාත්‍යාංශයට ගිහිල්ලා අපි කිව්වා මේගොල්ලෝ ඒක කරලා පස්සේ ඒක ලබා ගත්තා. ඒ වගේම ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවේ ණය ඒ අය ඒකට දෙන්න දැන් කැමති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඩොලර් මිලියන 100ක් දෙන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ නිසා මේක ඉතා ලොකු දෙයක්. ඉතින් ඊට අමතරව අර අපි කිව්වේ මේ වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රාග්ධනය ලබා දීමට දෙන හොඳයි කියලා හිතනවා. ඉතින් මේක තමයි මම කියන්නේ මේ අපේ ડોક્ટર කුලතුංග රාජපක්ෂ මේ ගැන මොනවද කියන්න තියෙනවද? මම හිතන්නේ අපේ මේ සිංහලෙන් අහලා තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඔබතුමාට ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්.
මම හිතන්නේ ලක්ෂ්මන් වටවල මහත්මයා සඳහන් කර පරිදි සුළු සහ මධ්‍යම ප්‍රමාණයේ කර්මාන්තකරුවන්ට දැන් මේක පැහැදිලිව කියවුණා ට්‍රේඩින් වලට දෙන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ව්‍යාපාර ට්‍රේඩින් වලට මේ ආධාර කරන්නේ නැති කියන එක පැහැදිලිව සඳහන් කරා. ඒතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ප්‍රමුඛත්වයේ තිබෙන්නේ කර්මාන්ත ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ පමණයි කියලායි කර්මාන්ත ක්ෂේත්‍ර සහ සර්විසස් වල සේවාවන් වලට. නමුත් මම හිතන්නේ සුළු සහ මධ්‍යම ප්‍රමාණයේ කර්මාන්තකරුවන්ගේ ප්‍රධානම අවශ්‍යතාවය තමයි ස්ටාර්ට්අප් කැපිටල් එක. ඒ කියන්නේ මුලින්ම පටන් ගන්න ප්‍රාග්ධනය. ඒක තමයි මම හිතන්නේ වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් එක ගැන මම හිතන්නේ අපේ සුළු පොඩි අය ඉතල දක්ෂ වෙනවා කියලා. මොකද වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් එක දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ පාර්ට්නර්ෂිප් වලට දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා මම දන්නේ නැහැ. මම හුඟක් වෙලාට වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් වැඩ කරන්නේ ලිමිටඩ් සීමා සහිත සමාගම් වලට. කොටස් නිකුත් කරපු සමාගම් වලට. නමුත් ඒක එච්චර ජනප්‍රිය වෙලා නැහැ මෙතෙක් කල් ලංකාවේ වෙන්චර් කැපිටල් එකේ දෙීම. නමුත් මේ සඳහන් කරා වගේ ප්‍රාග්ධනය ස්ටාර්ට්අප් කැපිටල් එක මුලින්ම ව්‍යාපාරේ පටන් ගන්න ස්ටාර්ට්අප් කැපිටල් එකට තමයි විශේෂයෙන්ම අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ. ඊළඟට ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ලෝන්ස් ව්‍යාපෘති සම්බන්ධව ලෝන්ස් දෙනවා කියන එක මෙතන පැහැදිලිව සඳහන් වුණේ නැහැ. සමහර කට්ටියගේ හොඳ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකක් තියෙනවා ව්‍යාපෘතියක් තියෙනවා. පටන් ගැනීමට ව්‍යාපෘතිය බලලා ණය දීමේ ක්‍රමවේදයක් මම හිතන්නේ තාම ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා නැතුනේ. මට තේරුනේ නැහැ ඒක පේනමයි කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක නත් පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් කරොත් මම හිතන්නේ හොඳයි කියලා. මොකද හුඟක් අයට තියෙන ව්‍යාපෘති තියෙනවා. ව්‍යාපෘතිය පටන් ගන්න මූලික පළමු මූලධනය සොයාගන්න අමාරුවක් තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා ඒක හුඟක් වෙලා ලොප් වෙනවා. ඒක නත් යමක් සඳහන් කරොත් මම හිතන්නේ හොඳයි කියලා.
Mr. Takuya, I think this question has come up. Actually, we explained in Sinhala the same thing that you mentioned, but now actually Dr. Rajapaksa has put a question whether for the capital, Dr. Rajapaksa, how does the term go?
Startup capital.
Startup capital, whether now if we set up a venture capital, because I of course feel that that is what they are planning to do, but maybe you can explain more in detail, Mr. Takuya.
Yeah, sure. Yes, we recognize that access to startup capital or equity financing, this is also an issue for MSMEs in Sri Lanka. And there are actually several issues, especially in the underdeveloped venture capital fund industries in Sri Lanka. For example, MSMEs do not want to dilute their ownerships when they get funded from venture capital industries. And also the exit opportunities for the venture capital fund is limited because the capital market is still at a nascent stage. And so I dare say that several efforts must be needed to develop the overall ecosystem for the startup capitals. But of course, one of the measures is the government may support establishing a SME venture capital fund, so that SME venture capital fund can provide some risk capitals to the MSMEs, and risk capitals can be several forms. For example, straight equity provision is one of the way. And also, a venture capital fund can provide, for example, hybrid instruments, such as this is a kind of loan, but the repayment can be in proportion to the revenues of the borrowers. So this kind of hybrid capital can be utilized by the venture capital fund. If this is the case, then the venture capital fund can overcome the issue of the ownership dilution of the MSMEs. So I dare say that perhaps the government can pilot some venture capital fund, and that will provide some not the straight equity, but some hybrid instruments to the MSMEs, and that may be a starting point, so that we can generate the demand for the venture capital fund, and also the supply of the venture capital financing in the future.
There is a question here. I just read it. This is about the perennial crops that ADB earlier had a scheme for perennial crops, and it was very successful project. I would like to propose ADB to consider a similar loan scheme once again. I think it is given by the SDB Bank. SDB Bank, I think they are also one of your partners. This is what they have suggested.
Yes, I think the agriculture sector financing, especially supporting for the small, holders, are one of the priority agenda for ADB, and so that's why, as a part of this third additional financing to SME line of credit project, we have a special credit scheme to T small holders. And if this scheme to support T small holders turns out to be successful, then we can expand the outreach of our credit line not only to the T small holders, but also other small holders for other crops. So that is our vision. But we'd like to see if our support for the tea sector will create the successful business model or successful credit delivery mechanisms.
Mr. Takuya, there is a question. Actually, this is a woman entrepreneur from the Uva district. She has applied for this V5 project and has been rejected. And so she is asking how whether there is any way that she'll be able to make an appeal or make some meet someone in order that she can maybe try to see whether she can get the loan.
Yeah, we are actually not involved. ADB is not involved in any like a single transaction, and so my advice is to directly communicate and consult with Ministry of Finance. And in terms of the guideline, I'm not sure what kind of guidelines have been applied, but I shared the link of the flyer prepared by the Ministry of Finance, and this clearly stipulates the eligibility criteria for this V5 grant, and so perhaps you may contact again the responsible officers of the Ministry of Finance and then ask for what kind of eligibility criteria are considered not being met.
I think Mr. Rakogama, can you give any answer to that about the V5 loan? What sort of requirements have to be met?
Yeah, as I earlier mentioned, the ownership of the entity more than 51% by the woman entrepreneur For an example, say if it is sole proprietor or single owner registered business is all right. Woman entrepreneur is the owner. In addition to that, some businesses are having some directorate and partnerships. That partnership, main partner should be the woman entrepreneur. And also, if it is limited liability company, the majority of the shares, that means more than 51%, should be held by the women entrepreneur. That's the main requirement. Other one is common, like the registered business, and also the environment protection license should be there. And if the business within the Colombo district, it should be an startup. The outside districts ongoing projects we can finance for even women entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs. So that's the basic for women entrepreneurs. As even for eligible for grant, any women entrepreneur having the stake over 51%, is a 10% grant from the particular loan amount. For an example, say if the woman entrepreneur opted for 1 million loan, so 10%, that means 100,000 will be a grant. Then the loan amount will be reduced to 900,000. The 10% absorbed as a grant. If the project within the lagging district, like rural districts, so additional 5% grant is eligible from the loan amount. As I earlier mentioned, example, say 1 million, they are entitled to get a grant 150,000. That means 15% of the particular loan amount. And also the ADB has provided the training for women entrepreneurs. If the training program followed by any woman entrepreneur, they are entitled to another 10% of the loan amount. That's a grant. So that means altogether, if a woman entrepreneur qualified for 3 categories, the 10%, 5% plus 10%, that means maximum 25% grant they are eligible to obtain. That's the valid reason for them to get 25% grant of the loan amount. Only thing is, women entrepreneurs are there. Some of them are engaged in trading and renting activities. They are not eligible as a project feature. As Dr. Kulatunga mentioned, this is basically industry sector and services. And should be a value addition for the sector. And also, we are encouraging to create more employment opportunities to this particular scheme. And also the micro entrepreneurs also entitled to get facility from this particular loan scheme, and gradually we develop next level, small and medium level segment. So this scheme is now almost completed, completed 6 years. It will run for another many years. And we are also revolving whatever the refinance collection from the banks. So scheme is available. Only thing is, most of applications were rejected due to non-availability of qualified criteria. And some of them start up like they are starters, the trading, and thereafter they are converted into manufacturing. But their business registration they have not updated. Examples, we have immense of examples. Say started with trading of timber logs, and thereafter they have started manufacturing furniture, but they have not updated their business registration accordingly. We only see the business registration original paper and see whether the business is eligible, manufacturing or whatever the services. The trading is there, so definitely it will be rejected. They will argue with us now. Even we can physically see the business is under manufacturing segment, but still they have not updated their business registration. So the humble request is all industrialists to see what are the activities they do. So accordingly, the business registration should be updated and get all required regulatory approvals like EPL, business registration, some of, food manufacturing and process, they have to get different approval from different institutions. So accordingly, they have to adhere whatever the required approvals from respective industries. So those are the lagging part. We as bankers.
Mr. Akogama, I think since Can you give your put on your telephone number on the chat so that anyone who needs maybe any assistance on this, they can contact you and you might be able to help them with to contact the branch or whatever it is and help them. Is it possible for you to give your contact number so that they can?
Sure. Sure. I'll share. I think many banks are doing this one. So anyway, I can support. I will leave my phone number for anyone. Any additional information, Professor, you want?
No, I think those are the things that are there. No, actually, some of them are asking various details on the credit scheme. That's why I said that if you give your number plus any others who are here from the banking sector, if you send your telephone numbers, then they can always, those who need information, will be able to contact them and get the details. Okay? Right, thank you. Dr. Kulatunga, you have any further comments that you want to make or suggestions?
No, I don't have. I think we have covered most of the areas.
Right,
so I don't.
Right, okay. Dr. Ravi, you have anything that you would like to mention?
First of all, I should thank Mr. Hoshino for very informative insights on how it is to be done and how it is happening, how it has been happening in the past and all that. It was very useful. With my experience and working with SMEs, I also found some of the times that this kind of facilities, most of the SMEs are not aware. So even though it is disseminated through the banks, sometimes the discerning recipient of a borrower or discerning recipient of a project custodian may not get to know about this kind of a facility. So I was thinking that earlier that we discussed that there is a possibility that this need to be well communicated. Even though through bank, it's a simple single-minded communication would be helpful to reach the discerning borrower, because we need to have the people to have this kind of money for very productive, sustainable projects where that will be contributing to the development of the economy and the GDP. So in that light, we need to identify that kind of a audience. So my suggestion here is, or request to you is there a formal mechanism that you have even thought about, or it is to be up to the respective banks to do the communication part of this particular benefit?
Yeah, this is, I think, the very good suggestion, and we also think that it's better for us to more proactively reach out to MSME community directly, rather than just relying on the distribution channel of participating financial institutions. I think one of the challenges that we face is, again, I think most of the participating financial institutions are very cooperative. But I think the challenge is to disseminate these loan schemes to all the branches, because the banks are huge, and sometimes the information cannot be correctly or transparently reached out to the branch level. And of course, some participating banks are quite good at reaching out to the local level, but the others may not. And but I think the communication should be more like mutually carried out. I think the banks should reach out to the MSME community, and at the same time, MSME community should also reach out to the banks. And that kind of mutual communication should happen. So we are very glad to support chambers, government institutions, and also other like influential parties such as CMA, so that MSME can directly get the information and then reach out to the banks instead of waiting for the banks to come. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hoshino. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Damit, you have any comments?
Yes, Professor, I think very interesting information is given by Mr. Takuya. I think that the very sad thing is most of the 900 enterprises in the informal sector, and there are 55% registration. That's a sad part in Sri Lanka. I think that's what we need. We are also, as a CMA, SME Development Committee, also working towards converting them to the registered business. I think most of the challenges in the credit schemes also that the research. And then the other one important thing is that in their going to conversion or the sustain these SMEs, capacity building is the main concern. I think you have identified that as a CMA also. We have done that. I think if we can collaborate, Professor, with ADB, this can be the more beneficial for the micro businesses to convert them to the that informal sector business to bring them a micro and then bring it to the small segment. And the other thing, the very interesting point you have noted, that venture capital SME. So we are searching for alternative finance scheme for the SMEs because they don't have the collateral. That's a main challenge. You focus on the startup as well. So I think next thing we need to move forward is under the alternative finance scheme, if we can look at it, set up immediately. So that's in addition to the credit guarantee institution, the venture capital fund. So that might be very, very helpful for the SMEs and the micro businesses to sustain in this COVID-19 forced recovery stage, to sustain them. That might be the very interesting thing I think you have highlighted. So is there any, I need to know that, is there any steps have you taken from the ADB side to set up this venture capital fund, or just in the working papers stage still in that concept?
Yeah, thanks very much for your very encouraging message to us. Alternative financing is very important, and SME venture capital fund is also a very important concept that the government may try. And still we have done only research on the venture capital fund industry, but we understand that the government is quite interested in venture capital fund support, and so we hope that we may work with the government and then try to come up with some mechanism to support the venture capital industry.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will invite Mr. Venkataramani. He is one of our colleagues on our committee. I am just allowing him to speak. If you can speak, let's see whether. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sir, I think it is mostly related to Sri Lankan banking system. I am unable to contribute much actually. Anyway, I am observing this one. I will write to you separately this one based on the contribution.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any further comments from our panel? I think there are. Mr. Prasanna, you have said, let me see whether if you want to make any comments, whether I can get you to Prasanna. Okay, Mr. Sulaiman, you have raised your hand. Let me anyway, please keep it brief, okay?
Appreciate your time, fellow members of the CMA, and thank you for this session. I'm actually representing my mother, Mrs. Siraj Wahid, who began this business as a small enterprise. She started in the garage and now owns a manufacturing plant in Boralaskamoa. She has successfully finished the Wi-Fi training program, and now she is just waiting to hear about the current progress of her facility, because she's a director. She began it as a manufacturer and a distributor. We go under her Star Holdings International. So we just want to know what would be the current evaluation of our project, as we did a big project that was, I think, the program was initiated by ADB, and we successfully finished it off. And honestly, this session for my mother will definitely help in her achieving her visions and goals.
Who are your bankers, Mr. Siraj? Who are your bankers?
NDB and Amana Bank.
Right. Actually, NDB is one of our. What we can do is, they are not present here, but certainly, if you give the details, then I can refer this to them.
Appreciate it, sir. If you can just give me your details, I will definitely be able to.
Why don't you put it on the chat? Then I will be able to get it. Okay. Right. Thank you. Right. Okay. I think there are various questions, but is there any location restriction? I think this is something that has come up on the Wi-Fi project within Colombo and outside, whether there is any elaborate location restriction.
Mr. Lakshman, in terms of the Wi-Fi funding, there's no geographical restriction.
Right.
So for women-owned SMEs, any women-owned SMEs in any location in the country can borrow and access the grant.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Most of the others are relating to all Wi-Fi, but I think most of the others have been covered. Any of our panel members, are there any further comments you would like to make before we?
Yeah, Professor, I'm Rako here. Again,
Rako. Yeah.
I think, and Sulaiman also mentioned about the training. His mother also followed the ADB training. And actually, through our even website, even through emails, we have all the banks have communicated to chambers and other entities to get on board for training for this particular Wi-Fi training provided by ADB. So we have to encourage women entrepreneurs to participate this training program, and it is really worth. I know many of women entrepreneurs I have evaluated their good in arranging their traditional business to commercially viable businesses. So, one request is that. Other one is all chambers can get together and encourage all SMEs, even small and entrepreneurs, to register their business and also updated whatever the old registration. That's a requirement. I think chambers and even business community, they can get together and encourage their members to get this their office in order. So definitely it will be a value-added advantage, their future banking relationships, and also to get more value-added products, financing product for them to expand their business. That's the message I want to leave.
This training program is done by ADB, is it, or the bank?
Yeah, ADB. Yeah, ADB. It will attend him provided with the training consultants.
Right. Mr. Takuya, do you want to mention anything about the training program?
Yeah. So training the program has been already completed, but once the online platform is launched, then we may resume the training programs. So that's the status. But we cannot guarantee that Wi-Fi grant is available or any future, because in any case, this Wi-Fi grant is available only until the end of December, and those Wi-Fi grant will be allocated to the participating financial institutions. And so once the participating financial institutions uses up the allocated grant, then grant cannot be available. But I just say that the training program will continue on. So definitely you may have an access to trainings in the future.
Some of them are interested in the interest rate. Is there any indication that you can give on the interest rate?
Yeah. So interest rate. So basically, banks will get the loan from the Ministry of Finance at average weighted deposit rate. That is announced by the central bank in January and July. So as of now, the last average weighted deposit rate in January this year was around 5%. Okay, so that is the funding cost for the bank. And banks will charge the bank margin on top of this funding cost of AWDR. And if the banks charges, say, 4%, then the final on-lending rate to the MSMEs may be around, say, 9%. And as you know, that the bank margin may be, dependent on the customer's profiles. And so we cannot say, anything about the bank margin. But on average, banks charge, say, 3 to 5% of bank margin.
Thank you, Mr. Takuya. I think you have made a very, very excellent presentation, and also we are certainly would like to work with you and help you, because we are already doing these things, and I think the link with the ADB will certainly help us to also bring the banks and also the chambers of commerce to get closely involved with this and help. So for the final closing remarks and maybe vote of thanks to you, can I invite Dr. Kulatunga to maybe deliver the closing remarks and vote of thanks?
So I think it is a very interesting session. So can I think I must thank the presenter, Mr. Shuni, for the excellent presentation. And SME is as Mr. Professor mentioned, SME is the backbone of the economy. Unfortunately, we have a large informal sector. So that's the sector that we have to be addressed. And as Dr. Pamanusinghe mentioned, we are very weak in the communication. Most of them are not aware of the facilities that are being granted by ADB and the assistance program. So I think this is a good eye-opener. So on behalf of the CMA, let me thank Mr. Hoshino for the excellent presentation. And I hope this, with this presentation, which will be recorded right now, we will be able to pass this information to the SME sector. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kulatunga. Thank you very much, Mr. Takuya Hoshino, and also all our Mr. Rakogama, who's there from the HNB, plus all our committee members and also the participants. And I'm sure that you would have greatly benefited from this. And I think we are very happy that the Asian Development Bank is playing a major role, and two important areas. One is credit guarantee institution, and the other one, the venture capital fund. So I hope that we will be able to support this idea, and that we'll be able to get this operational as soon as possible. So thank you very much again, Mr. Takuya Hoshino. I think your presentation has been very well accepted by all, and it's also created a lot of knowledge among the participants as to what you all are doing. And the banks also have explained in detail the sort of benefit received by SME. So thank you very much. And we wish you all the very best and look forward to continuing our relationship and to supporting your projects, and also for supporting our CMA Sri Lanka COVID-19 SME Development Committee. Thank you and good night to you. All the best.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoshino. Thank you, Professor
Thank you.
Vattayala.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll close up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Venkat.
Thank you, sir.